Thanks for joining us on WTOL 11 Plus. I'm Sophia Periconi. Let's get your weekend started with a look at what we can expect weather-wise with meteorologist Heather Pollauf. Heather, good morning. It's been a pretty warm stretch of the week. What can we expect this weekend?
Yeah, yesterday we hit a high temperature of 91 degrees and we have hit the 90s 12 times so far this summer season. The average is 19 days, and of course we're about halfway through the summer season, so we still have a long way to go. But yeah, we have hit 90 degrees 12 times. We'll do it again today, making it 13 days in the 90s here. Not in a row though, so at least that's kind of the silver lining there. This morning we're waking up to the 70s for everybody. 76 in Toledo, BG 73, 78 out along the lakeshore. Not a bad day to get out on the lake if you are heading out there, but make sure you're trying to do that early in the morning, as we do have that chance for showers and storms coming up for this afternoon and evening. In fact, we've got all of northwest Ohio and southeast Michigan in that slight risk for severe weather. That's coming up for this afternoon and evening, and our main threats with some of those storms going to be some gusty winds and torrential downpours. We have a lot of moisture in the atmosphere as we are heading into the weekend, and that's what's really going to help fuel some of that rain and storm activity. So let's time that out hour by hour here. We start the clock at noon today. Winds from the southwest pumping in more of that moisture as well. We could see wind gusts up to 20-25 miles an hour through the day today. But look at plenty of sunshine, just a few clouds starting to develop here. So a nice boating day, pool day before noon. Hour by hour stops the clock at 2 o'clock this afternoon, and you can see some of those pop-up showers and storms trying to get things going. But that main threat for rain and storms coming up for this afternoon and evening. So we stop the clock here at 5 p.m. and you can see we've got some torrential downpour possibilities here all the way back to the state line. And you can expect the rain activity to stay in the area through the evening hours. In fact, here's 8 o'clock as we're approaching sunset. We start to see some of those rain and storms moving out of the area. So a little bit of good news there for us. We'll dry out into the overnight hours, but that humidity holds on just a little bit overnight tonight. Our low temperature only gets down to 70 degrees or so, so not really helping us to cool down from that high temperature of 94 today. But the good news, tomorrow we'll stay in the 80s. It'll still be warm and sticky though. So here's what you can expect: that storm timing 1 to 9 o'clock this evening, and our biggest threat's going to be those heavy downpours, strong winds. Not really looking at a big hail threat though, so that's some good news for us there. As we get into the rest of the week though, things calm down for us getting into Monday and beyond. Not looking too bad. But for your Saturday, maybe you're heading out to the Lucas County Fair. It's going to be hot and muggy, so make sure you maybe carry a water bottle with you, staying hydrated as you're going to be out there. Scattered storms in the area afternoon for us today as well. Winds again from the southwest, 5 to 15 miles an hour. And as you're getting into, say, those daytime activities, again, you're going to want to make sure that you are staying nice and hydrated. Sophia, do we have any questions out there?
No questions yet, but I do have a question. So you're mentioning it's muggy out there.
Yeah.
Should we expect a cloudy day before the storms even roll in, or will we have some sunshine a little bit, at least in the morning part?
We are going to have lots of sunshine as we are getting into the day today. So really, that's what's going to help us warm up so quickly to that high temperature of 92. But the timing of the storms really going to kind of help us out with that high temperature. So as we get into the afternoon, as I mentioned with the hour by hour forecast, we're not expecting the rain and storm main event to come till this evening, but with those pop-up showers and storms, that will kind of limit that high temperature to only 92, because otherwise we would have that possibility to see the mid-90s, and then with the humidity on top of that, we would have those feels-like temperatures close to 100 degrees. So that's kind of helping us out just a little bit as we are getting into the later part of the day today. So some good news for us there if you do have those outdoor plans. And of course, this time of year, that sunshine really cranking up. So any outdoor plans, probably going to need to pack that sunscreen as well. Just get one of those big totes full of all of the outdoor goodies if you're going to be out there.
How about looking ahead to tomorrow? Are we seeing any storm threats then, or is it another beautiful day?
So the good news about tomorrow is that we do have about a 20% chance of rain, but we're not expecting widespread rain and storms like we've got on the way for today. So if you do have outdoor plans for the second half of the weekend, things are looking pretty good for you there. But the high temperature for tomorrow, 88 degrees, so little bit cooler, relatively speaking. But the humidity is not going to be as bad for tomorrow either. Now, we do see it climb just a little bit each day into the new work week that will take us back to the 90s by Wednesday, Tuesday and Wednesday, seeing the low 90s there. Looking ahead, though, to next weekend, and of course, we still have quite a ways to go before we get to next weekend. But looking ahead, that pattern looking pretty likely that we'll see those high temperatures start to maybe head back down toward the low 80s rather than the low 90s. So a little bit of relief coming, and we could see overnight lows toward next weekend getting down into the 50s. So that open window weather is going to be coming back. I know that it has certainly been hot and humid so far this summer, but we're going to start to see things sort of feel a little better for us.
And we do have a question. Someone wants to know, they are a boater. Will the humidity be lower near the lake?
So typically we do see that pattern where we get that lower humidity out toward the lakeshore, and that's because the lake water temperature this time of year right around 80 degrees. And when you have that big body of water of the lake, you do start to see that sort of impacting those air temperatures. When you've got a lower air temperature, it certainly feels a lot better, even if the humidity is a bit higher. So air temperature out along the immediate lakeshore today probably going to stay closer to the upper 80s, and with that you do see that lower humidity, at least that feels like temperature certainly on that lower side compared to the rest of the area. So yeah, if you do have plans to be out near the lakeshore or on the lake, it will feel a little bit better.
And coming off of that, we have a question from Mark L., who just in general, I'm not sure if Mark is a boater, but in general, Mark wants to know, when is the high humidity going away for all of us?
That's a great question, and we always, at least we tend to see those humidity levels come down after we get the rain and storms out. So that's a really good kind of thing to look forward to after we do get the rain and storms out today and really tomorrow too. So that's going to kind of help us out just a little bit there as that rain kind of precipitates out of the atmosphere that takes all of the moisture out of it. We'll still have that temperature, though, tomorrow into the upper 80s, so that's going to still make it feel a little warm and humid, but the humidity levels, that dew point is going to be back down into the low 60s tomorrow, so that's going to really help us out with that feels like temperature. That's a really good question.
And sticking with the humidity, Carmen L. wants to know, why does it feel so much hotter when it's humid? That's a big question. Carmen wants to know all the science behind humidity. Why does it really feel so much hotter?
So when you have a lot of moisture in the air, the reason that we sweat is so that that sweat evaporates off of our skin, and with it, it takes the heat. So, you know, think about when you get out of the pool and you're cold, that's because you are losing that body heat because of the water that's on your skin that's evaporating off of it. So the same thing happens when you sweat. So when there's a lot of moisture in the air and you've got that moisture on your skin, it really doesn't have anywhere to go because you don't have like the sponge of dry air to kind of wick that away. There's very technical terms there with, you know, what sponges and things, but the main point that I'm trying to say is that when you have that moisture on your skin and it doesn't evaporate off and it doesn't have that chance to kind of take that heat away, it just kind of sits there on your skin and you're not really losing that heat. So it really kind of just stays with you, stays in your body, and that's why we have such, you know, high humidity and we have that high feels like temperature anyway. So it really depends on the dew point. That is really the best kind of marker that we use for that moisture content in the atmosphere. So our dew point today is going to be in the low 70s and it feels tropical when we do have that kind of humidity level. So that's when you start to get, you know, that inability to sweat. It doesn't really evaporate as much. And so, you know, yesterday, Sophia, I was out cutting the grass and I was just like sweating, but it wasn't going anywhere because, you know, the air is so humid.
Yeah.
And that's when you like, you know, wipe your forehead and it's like kind of all still there and it's gross and nasty and you know, have to immediately go take a shower.
Yeah.
That's the kind of humidity that we're going to have today as well. So really great question. That is kind of the science behind it is your sweat just doesn't have anywhere to go. So you just hold on to all of that heat.
Interesting. And I want to talk about the extended forecast. You mentioned, I think, into Friday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Yes, maybe Saturday looks like our 81. I feel like that's pretty low compared to what we've been feeling and experiencing. You mentioned overnight lows in the 50s. Can you talk about that a little bit more? Because some of us hate the cold, and should we be bundling up that evening?
I don't recommend bundling up personally because, I mean, I just enjoy the coolness of those overnight hours when we get down into the 50s. But that kind of goes back to the humidity chat as well. When you have those dew points and they start to kind of come down as you're approaching the end of July, early August, when things start to try to think about cooling down anyway, we start to get that humidity out, and that allows those overnight temperatures to drop pretty substantially. So when you do have moisture in the air, not only does it hold the sweat on your skin, but it also holds that moisture and holds those temperatures a little bit longer. So when you don't have quite as much moisture in the atmosphere, that tends to let those temperatures cool down more rapidly. So that's just one factor in a number of factors that helps those overnight lows. The other factor, of course, is going to be the cloud cover, those daytime high temperatures. All of those things kind of come together to help you, figure out what the overnight low and the daytime high is going to be. But yeah, 81 degrees for that high temperature on Saturday, and our average high temperature this time of year is 87 degrees. And I think that's pretty close to the maximum high temperature, at least for averages for at least our area this time of year. So once we get to maybe late July, early August, we start to see that daily average high temperature start to go down as we're approaching the fall season. So really starting to see things change just a little bit. And of course, it's very typical for this time of year, but it's not out of the question, of course, to see the 90s as you're getting into mid to late July.
Right. And before we go, Heather, I have one more question for you. Looking at that extended forecast, what is your pick day of the week? What is the day you're telling, or for you, is your best day on that forecast?
I like the heat and humidity. I like pool days. Of course, the sunshine, kind of that risk factor when you do, think about sunburns and risk factors like that. But otherwise, I like the 90s. I'm looking ahead to Tuesday and Wednesday. Tuesday is going to probably be the best day in that extended forecast. Wednesday, we do have a chance for some rain and storms, but otherwise, not looking too bad. A pretty typical summary extended forecast. Sophia, where can people find us next time?
Yes, Heather, thank you so much. If you're watching us on WTOL 11 Plus, thank you. And if you're watching us on YouTube, go to your smart TV and download WTOL 11 Plus for free. We have extended weather content just like this, in-depth sports and investigative pieces, plus a show where you can get nothing but good news from our area. So we hope to see you over there on WTOL 11 Plus. Thanks for joining us.